Recent reports claim that some U.S. military leaders told service members that President Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus to ignite a conflict that could lead to Armageddon. Statements like that spread quickly among Christians. Add to that the rising tensions around Israel, the Temple Mount, growing global anti-Semitism, the attack of Iran, and the continued persecution of Christians worldwide. So the question many believers are asking is simple: are we approaching the end of the age? Christians have always wrestled with that question. But the Bible tells us two things very clearly. First, no one knows the day or the hour. Second, we are commanded to watch. Today, we are not speculating or predicting dates. We are doing what watchmen have always done. We are examining the signs. And before we get too far, let me say this clearly. The church should never panic at headlines, but the church should also never ignore the signs. Before we talk about today's headlines, we need to understand the biblical framework. The Bible actually gives a broad timeline of the end of the age. Jesus called the early events birth pains. Matthew 24 tells us we will see increasing deception, wars and rumors of wars, persecution of believers, global preaching of the gospel, and a growing rebellion against God. Eventually, according to Scripture, several major events unfold. The rise of a powerful global leader often called the Antichrist, or the man of lawlessness. A period of intense suffering known as the tribulation, the visible return of Jesus Christ, the final judgment. Ultimately, a new heaven and a new earth will emerge. If you want a deeper breakdown of that timeline, I did an entire teaching entitled, "Are We Living in the Last Days? Signs Jesus Warned About?" I'll link it below. That video walks through the full prophetic timeline, but today we're focusing on something different. Where do current events fit into that framework? Because prophecy does not unfold randomly. It unfolds through real nations, real leaders, and real events. Every serious study of prophecy eventually arrives at the same place: Israel. The Bible repeatedly places Israel at the center of end-time events. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem is one of the most contested pieces of land on earth, and for good reason. Several prophecies suggest that a temple must exist again in the last days. The IDF closed the Al-Aqsa Mosque on March 3, 2026, and it remains closed despite it being Ramadan. This is rare. Historically, closing has happened 3 other times. April 15, 2022. Severe restrictions and raids occurred following clashes. 2020. The compound closed for over 2 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 1967. Israel confiscated the keys to the Bab al-Maghrib, Moroccan Gate, after occupying East Jerusalem. But there is more. The October raid out of Gaza was called Al-Aqsa. Do these signs point towards the end of the funnel of time? As watchmen, we need to ask these questions. 4 Bible verses point to the distinct possibility of a third temple in Jerusalem. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 3 and 4 mentions the man of lawlessness, Antichrist, taking his seat in the temple of God, indicating a physical structure exists in the end times. Daniel 9:27 and 11:31 references the abomination of desolation stopping daily sacrifices, which implies a rebuilt temple where Jewish sacrifices have resumed. Revelation 11 verses 1 and 2 describes the measuring of the temple of God. Ezekiel 40:48 provides a detailed, albeit debated blueprint of a future, highly elaborate temple. That idea might sound far-fetched, but if you watched my video, "Is the third temple construction about to begin?" Red heifer evidence, you already know something remarkable. Groups in Israel are actively preparing for temple worship. Priestly garments have been recreated, temple instruments have been rebuilt, and red heifers, required for purification rites, have already been bred. These are not fringe theories. These are documented preparations. Again, I covered all of that in detail in that video. Now here's where the geopolitical story becomes intriguing. Rebuilding a temple is not solely a religious matter, it's a political one. Why? It would need to displace the Dome of the Rock. There is archaeological proof that the second temple was once beneath one of the foundation walls of the mosque. Many Christians imagine prophecy as sudden and mysterious, but history and eschatology are moving into the end-time funnel, slowly narrowing toward a moment. Think of the birth pains Jesus described. Each one moves the world closer. The players in that funnel include the nation of Israel, the United States, Russia, and China. Other players stand poised to leave their mark on the global scene. Many Middle Eastern countries are aggressors of Israel, and this is where current politics sometimes intersects with prophecy. For example, during his presidency, Donald Trump made several decisions that dramatically shifted Middle Eastern geopolitics. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. He brokered the Abraham Accords. He met with Israeli leaders regarding regional peace. He secured the release of Israeli hostages from the October 7th raids out of Gaza. He also had conversations with organizations connected to the Temple Institute. Does this imply that he is fulfilling prophecy? Not necessarily. He certainly isn't controlling it. But it does show something important. The geopolitical pieces exist for the potential world-ending scenario seemingly prophesied in the Bible. For 2,000 years, world leaders have been playing into the end-time funnel. History is moving, and leaders have and can influence the environment in which prophecy unfolds. But the Bible makes something else clear. No political leader controls prophecy. God does. This brings us back to the recent claims circulating in the news. In early March 2026, reports say that some military leaders told service members that President Trump was anointed by Jesus to ignite a conflict leading to Armageddon. Christians should be very careful with claims like that. Scripture never teaches that a modern politician initiates Armageddon. The Battle of Armageddon happens at the end of a long prophetic sequence described in Revelation. It has been unfolding since the beginning of recorded biblical history and even earlier in oral tradition. The end of the funnel should follow a period of tribulation. The last sign is actually a global harvest of souls. A future video will speak to those details. It involves many nations gathering against Israel, and ultimately, it ends with the return of Jesus Christ himself. So while political tensions and wars may move the world closer to that moment, we should never confuse headlines with prophecy itself. The Bible warns us about false prophets and speculation, but it also warns us not to fall asleep, to be ready, to be watchful. The role of a watchman is simple. Be watchful, warn others, be prepared. As Christians, we look to his hope, not to fear. Ezekiel describes watchmen who stood on the walls of cities looking for danger. They didn't invent threats, but when danger approached, they sounded the alarm. That is how Christians should approach prophecy, not with fear, not with sensationalism, but with awareness. Jesus himself said, "When you see these things begin to happen, look up." If you want a deeper dive into these topics, I've done several other teachings you might find helpful. Here are 3. The end of the world, the second coming of Jesus. What the Bible really says about the end times, red heifers and the third temple, the rapture, and the second coming. All of those are linked below. It's easy to become overwhelmed when studying prophecy. Wars, persecution, judgment. But prophecy ultimately points to something far greater. Hope. We believe there will be a great harvest of souls coming to a saving faith in Jesus Christ. The final battle will take place in the Kidron Valley, the return of Jesus Christ, the defeat of evil, the restoration of all things, a new heaven and a new earth. So while the world may move closer to the final chapter, Christians do not live in fear. There is grace during persecution. The early church suffered much in the first 300 years of her existence. See my video, Before Cathedrals, the underground church that transformed the known world, linked below. We live in expectation. We trust a loving God, even in difficult times. His name is Jesus. The church doesn't panic at headlines, but it also doesn't ignore the signs. We watch, we remain faithful, and we remember the promise of Christ, "Surely I am coming soon." If this video helped you understand the prophetic framework a little better, please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check out the other prophecy videos linked below. Thanks for watching The Non-Prophet. Until next time, stay watchful. Stay tuned for another video on the end of the age. Don't forget the links are in the description below, and a playlist with all my eschatology videos is on the screen.